Park Taiho walked through the metal corridors of Horizon's Edge with a toolbox in his hand. His footsteps were soft. His shoulders were slightly bent. He wore simple gray clothes and thick glasses that made his eyes look bigger than they were. To anyone watching, he was just another maintenance worker. Nobody special. Nobody important. The space station was busy today. Aliens of all kinds moved through the hallways. Some were tall with blue skin. Others were short with many arms. Taiho passed them all without looking up. He had learned long ago that the best way to survive was to stay invisible. He stopped at a broken air vent and opened his toolbox. His fingers moved quickly over the wires inside. He had done this work for 15 years. 15 quiet years of fixing things, eating alone, and sleeping in his small room. It was a peaceful life. A boring life. But Taiho liked boring. Boring meant safe. Taiho. A voice called out. He turned to see Yoon Ji-won walking toward him. She was a medical officer with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. Her black hair was tied back, and she carried a tablet in her hands. "You missed lunch again," she said. "I was busy." "You are always busy." She crossed her arms. "Why did you last eat something that was not instant noodles?" Taiho thought about it. Tuesday? Today is Friday. He shrugged and turned back to his work. Ji-won sighed but did not leave. She was his only real friend on the station. She had found him 7 years ago, bleeding in a storage room after a fight he did not start. She had fixed his wounds and asked no questions. Since then, she had made it her mission to keep him alive. "Have you heard the news?" she asked, her voice lower now. "What news?" "The Valkyrie are coming. A whole fleet. They say it is for trade, but everyone knows what they really want." Taiho's hands stopped moving for just a moment. The Valkyrie Dominion. He had heard stories about them. A military empire that conquered weak species and turned them into slaves. They were strong, cruel, and feared across the galaxy. "When?" he asked. "Tomorrow." He nodded slowly and continued his work. There was nothing he could do about it. He was just a maintenance worker. The next day, the Valkyrie ships arrived. They were massive and black, like metal monsters floating in space. The station shook as they docked. Within hours, Valkyrie soldiers were everywhere. They were tall creatures with gray skin, 4 eyes, and muscles that looked like stone. They carried weapons and walked like they owned everything they saw. Taiho watched from a distance as their leader stepped onto the station. Overseer Rathik was bigger than the others. His armor was decorated with bones from species he had conquered. His 4 eyes scanned the crowd with disgust. "This station now operates under Valkyrie protection," Rathik announced. His voice was deep and cold. "You will give us what we need. In return, we will not destroy you." Nobody argued. Nobody could. The days that followed were dark. Valkyrie soldiers took food without paying. They pushed aliens aside in the corridors. They laughed at anyone who looked afraid. And they seemed to enjoy hurting the humans. Most of all, Taiho kept his head down. He fixed pipes. He repaired circuits. He stayed invisible. But on the 3rd day, he could not stay invisible anymore. He was walking through a lower corridor when he heard shouting. He turned a corner and saw 3 Valkyrie soldiers surrounding a young man. It was Kang Do-yeon, a cargo handler who was only 22 years old. Do-yeon had a kind face and a quick smile. He often brought Taiho coffee and asked him questions about engineering. Now, Do-yeon was on his knees, blood dripping from his nose. "Please," Do-yeon said. "I did not mean to bump into you. It was an accident." One of the soldiers kicked him in the stomach. Humans do not have accidents. Humans have punishments. Taiho's feet moved before his brain could stop them. He walked toward the group, his toolbox still in his hand. "Excuse me," he said quietly. The soldiers turned to look at him. They saw a thin man with glasses and tired eyes. They saw nothing worth fearing. "What do you want, little human?" one of them asked. "Please, leave him alone. He is just a boy." The soldiers looked at each other and laughed. Their laughter was ugly and loud. Then the biggest one stepped forward and hit Taiho across the face with the back of his hand. Taiho fell to the ground. His glasses flew off. Blood filled his mouth. The world spun around him. "Know your place," the soldier said. "You are nothing. Your species is nothing. Born to serve. Born to break." They walked away, still laughing. Do-young crawled to Taiho's side. "Taiho, are you okay?" "I am so sorry. You should not have done that." Taiho found his glasses and put them back on. One lens was cracked. He stood up slowly, wiped the blood from his lip, and said nothing. He simply picked up his toolbox and walked away. That night, Jiwon came to his room. She found him sitting in the dark, staring at an old metal container in the corner. She had seen that container before, but never asked about it. Tonight, it was open. Inside was a black military uniform. On the shoulder was a symbol she did not recognize, a skull with wings, surrounded by flames. "What is that?" she whispered. Taeho did not look at her. His voice was quiet, almost empty. "A reminder of who I used to be. Who were you?" "Someone the galaxy learned to fear." He finally turned to face her. His eyes were different now. The tiredness was gone. Something colder had taken its place. "I spent 15 years trying to forget. Trying to be normal. Trying to believe that the monster inside me was dead." He looked back at the uniform. "They made a mistake, Jiwon. The Velthari think humans are weak. They think we are prey." He stood up and walked to the container. "I was trying so hard to stay retired." Jiwon felt a chill run down her spine. She had known Taiho for 7 years. She thought she knew everything about him. But looking at him now, she realized she knew nothing at all. "What are you going to do?" she asked. Taeho picked up the uniform and held it in his hands. For a long moment, he was silent. Then he spoke, and his words were soft as a whisper, but heavy as stone. "I am going to remind them why humanity should never be underestimated." 3 more days passed. The Velthari grip on the station grew tighter with each hour. They walked through corridors like kings. They took whatever they wanted. They heard whoever they pleased. And the station's council did nothing to stop them. Taeho watched it all. He fixed broken machines during the day. He studied station blueprints at night. He memorized every corridor, every vent, every shadow. His body worked on repairs, but his mind was building something else. A map, a plan, a countdown, but he waited. He was not ready to act yet. He needed to be sure. He needed them to make the first move. On the 6th day, Overseer Rathik called a meeting with the station council. The council was made of leaders from different alien species beings who had lived on Horizon's edge for decades. They gathered in the main hall, nervous and afraid. Taiho was not invited. He was just a maintenance worker. But he listened through a vent in the ceiling, his ear pressed against the metal grate. Rathik's voice boomed through the hall. "The Velthari Dominion has decided to expand its labor force. We require workers for our mining colonies. Strong backs? Obedient minds. What kind of workers?" asked one council member, a tall alien with green skin. "Humans," Rathik said simply. "All of them. Every human on this station will be transferred to Velthari ships by tomorrow night." Silence filled the room. Taiho's jaw tightened. "You cannot do this," another council member said, her voice shaking. "Humans are citizens of this station. They have rights." Rathik laughed. It was a cold, empty sound. "Rights are for the strong. Humans are not strong. They are small, soft, perfect for labor, perfect for breaking. He leaned forward. You will give them to us, or we will take them. And we will take much more. The council did not argue. They were too afraid. Some of them even nodded in agreement. Taeho pulled away from the vent. His hands were shaking, but not from fear. From something older, something darker. He climbed down from the ceiling and walked to his workshop. He needed to think. He needed to be calm. Acting in anger was how soldiers died. He had learned that lesson long ago, but then his communicator beeped. It was a message from Ji-won. Just 3 words. Come quickly. Diane. Taeho ran. He found them in the medical bay. Ji-won was bent over a bed, her hands covered in blood. On the bed lay Diane. The young man's face was swollen and purple. His arm was bent at a wrong angle. His breathing was weak and shallow. What happened? Taeho's voice was barely a whisper. He tried to protect some children, Ji-won said, not looking up. A group of human kids. The Valkyrie were taking them for inspection. Diane stood in the way. He told them to stop. And they did this? They beat him for 10 minutes. They only stopped because they got bored. Ji-won's voice cracked. His spine is damaged. Even if he lives, he might never walk again. Taeho moved closer. He looked down at Doyen's broken body. The young man who brought him coffee. The young man who smiled at everyone. The young man who called him older brother. Something inside Taeho snapped. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was quiet, like a lock clicking open. Like a door that had been sealed for 15 years finally swinging wide. Stay with him? Taeho said. Where are you going? He did not answer. He walked out of the medical bay and headed straight for the command center where Rathik had set up his base. Guards stood at every door. Soldiers patrolled every corridor. None of them stopped the thin man with cracked glasses. Why would they? He was nobody. Taeho walked right up to Rathik's door. The guards looked at him with amusement. What do you want, little human? One asked. I want to speak to the overseer. They laughed and opened the door, pushing him inside like a toy. Rathik sat on a large chair in the center of the room. Around him were screens showing different parts of the station. He was drinking something dark from a metal cup. When he saw Taeho, he smiled. Ah, the quiet pet. I remember you. The one who bleeds so easily. He took another drink. Have you come to beg? To offer yourself in exchange for the others. How touching. Taeho stood still. His face showed nothing. His voice was calm and flat. You have 12 hours to leave this station. Take your soldiers. Take your ships. Never return. The room went silent. Then Rathik started laughing. His soldiers joined him. The sound filled the room like thunder. 12 hours? Rathik wiped a tear from one of his 4 eyes. Or what, little human? What will you do? Taeho looked at him. Really looked at him. And in that moment, Rathik saw something strange in the human's eyes. Something cold. Something ancient. But the moment passed, and Rathik shook his head. Get out, he said, still chuckling. Go back to fixing toilets. Leave the real work to real warriors. Taeho turned and walked out. The guards laughed at his back. The whole command center was still shaking with amusement. But one young Valkyrie soldier was not laughing. He had seen something in the human's eyes that the others had missed. He had seen that look before in the eyes of captured enemies who had already accepted death, who had nothing left to lose. That night, Taeho returned to his room. He opened the metal container all the way. Inside, beneath the black uniform, were other things. A mask that covered the whole face. Knives of different sizes. Small devices that blinked with quiet lights. And a pair of gloves with metal fingertips. He put on each piece slowly. The uniform still fit perfectly. The mask felt familiar against his skin. The knives found their old places on his body. When he looked in the mirror, Park Tae-ho was gone. In his place stood something else. Something that had made entire planets surrender. Something that the Velthari Dominion had never faced. A Reaper. He turned off the lights and stepped into the corridor. The station was entering its night cycle. Soon, the hallways would be dark and quiet. Perfect. He moved through the shadows without sound. His body remembered every lesson, every kill, every mission from his past life. 15 years of peace had not dulled his skills. They had only put them to sleep. Now, they were awake. And the Velthari were about to learn the true cost of their mistake. They had hurt his friend. They had threatened his people. They had mistaken his kindness for weakness. They would not make that mistake again, because in 12 hours, either they would be gone or they would be dead. Tae-ho was fine with either outcome. The first patrol disappeared at midnight. 3 Velthari soldiers walked through Corridor 7 on the lower deck. They were laughing about something. One of them was telling a story about a planet they had conquered. Their footsteps echoed off the metal walls. Then the lights went out. What happened? One soldier asked. A power failure. These human stations are garbage. They turned on their helmet lights. The beams cut through the darkness, showing empty walls and closed doors. Nothing unusual. Let us keep moving. The backup power will come on soon. They walked forward. Their lights bounced off the walls. Left, right. Then one beam caught something on the floor. A shadow, a shape. Something that should not be there. The soldier in front stopped. What is? He never finished his sentence. A hand came from the darkness and covered his mouth. A blade slid between the plates of his armor, finding the soft flesh beneath. He fell without a sound. The other 2 soldiers spun around, weapons raised. Their lights found nothing. Only darkness. Only silence. Where are you? One of them shouted. His voice shook. Show yourself. A whisper came from everywhere and nowhere. You should have left when I asked. The second soldier fell. The third tried to run. He made it 5 steps before something wrapped around his neck and pulled him into the shadows. The corridor was quiet again. An hour later, a security officer noticed that Patrol 7 had not reported in. He sent another team to investigate. They found nothing. No bodies, no blood, no signs of struggle. Just 3 empty helmets lined up against the wall. Inside each helmet was a note written in Velthari script. It said, 11 hours left. Overseer Rathig received the news with anger. Find them, he ordered. They are probably hiding somewhere, drunk on stolen supplies. Find them and bring them to me. He sent more soldiers. 10 this time, armed with heavy weapons and thermal scanners. They spread out through the lower decks, searching every room, every corner, every shadow. One by one, they stopped reporting, and by 3 in the morning, 22 Velthari soldiers were missing. Rathig's anger turned to confusion, then to something that felt uncomfortable, like fear. He refused to admit it. The Velthari did not feel fear. They were conquerors, masters of 100 worlds, but something was wrong. He called his elite hunters, soldiers who had trained since birth to track and kill. There were 6 of them, each one worth 100 regular troops. They had never failed a mission. Find whatever is doing this, Rathig ordered. Kill it. Bring me its head. The hunters moved out in pairs. They were careful, professional. They checked every angle, covered every shadow, trusted nothing. In Corridor 12, the first pair found a blood trail. They followed it slowly, weapons ready. The trail led to a ventilation shaft. The grate was open. It is using the vents, one hunter said quietly. Clever, but we are better. He climbed into the shaft. His partner stayed below, watching. The hunter crawled forward, following the blood. His thermal scanner showed nothing alive ahead, just cold metal and old dust. Then, behind him, the grate slammed shut. What? He tried to turn around, but the shaft was too narrow. He heard something moving in the darkness ahead. Not behind where he expected the enemy. Ahead. The blood trail had been a trap. His partner below heard a short scream, then silence. Something wet dripped from the vent. The partner ran. He made it 20 meters before a figure dropped from the ceiling, landing on him like a ghost. The figure moved with impossible speed and terrible precision. 2 strikes. 3. The hunter fell. Still twitching. The figure stood over him, a man in a black mask, face hidden, body wrapped in shadow. He looked down at the dying hunter and spoke softly. Your friends should have left. Now it is too late for them too. By 5 in the morning, Rathik had lost 47 soldiers, including 4 of his elite hunters. The station's security feeds showed nothing useful. In some corridors, the cameras simply stopped working. In others, they showed only empty hallways, even as soldiers disappeared from them. But one camera, damaged and flickering, captured a single image. A thin figure moving through the darkness, human-shaped, wearing a black mask. Walking calmly through a corridor filled with bodies, stepping over them like they were nothing. Rathik stared at the image. His 4 eyes were wide. What is this? A captured officer, one of the station's alien council members, looked at the screen and went pale. He recognized the mask. He had seen it before, in old war records that most species tried to forget. That symbol, the officer whispered, pointing at the skull with wings on the figure's shoulder. I know what that is. Then tell me. The Reapers. Earth's Reaper Division. They were disbanded after the Cygnus War 20 years ago. The things they did. He shook his head. Every species agreed to never speak of them again. We thought they were all dead. Clearly, they are not. Rathik slammed his fist on the console. It is one human. One. How is he doing this? The officer laughed bitterly. It was the laugh of someone who had given up hope. You do not understand. Reapers were not normal soldiers. They were trained to be nightmares. One Reaper once destroyed an entire military base alone. Another held a planet hostage for 6 days until their demands were met. He looked at Rathik with something like pity. You took his friend. You threatened his people. You woke something that should have stayed asleep. I am not afraid of one human. Then you are a fool. The officer turned away. And you will die a fool. On the wall of Rathik's quarters, written in the blood of his soldiers, a message appeared. The guards did not see who wrote it. The cameras did not record it. But in the morning light, the words were clear. Time is up. Outside, in a dark maintenance tunnel, Taiho removed his mask and took a deep breath. His body ached. His hands were steady but tired. He had not slept in 30 hours, but he was not finished. He looked at a small photo in his hand, Doan smiling, giving a thumbs up, standing in front of a cargo ship. The young man who might never walk again. Taiho put the photo away and put his mask back on. 40-7 down. More to go. The hunt was not over yet. The sun cycle began, and the station woke to chaos. Tari soldiers ran through the corridors in panic. They no longer walked like kings. They moved in tight groups, weapons pointing at every shadow, every vent, every dark corner. Their eyes were wide with fear they refused to name. Rathik had called for help. He had sent emergency signals to the Dominion fleet, begging for reinforcements. But no response came. The messages never left the station. Deep in the communication center, every outgoing signal was blocked. Every distress call was silenced. Taiho had spent 15 years learning the station's systems. He knew every wire, every code, every pathway. The Valkyrie thought they controlled Horizon's edge. They controlled nothing. In the medical bay, Ji-won worked without rest. She had heard the news spreading through the station. Something was hunting the Valkyrie. Something fast. Something deadly. Something that moved like smoke and killed like lightning. She knew who it was. When Taiho appeared in their doorway, she almost did not recognize him. He still wore his maintenance worker clothes, but they were torn and stained. His glasses were gone. His face was hard and empty. "How is he?" Taiho asked, looking at Doyen's bed. "Stable. Sleeping." Ji-won stepped closer to him. "Taiho, the whole station is talking. They say a ghost is killing the Valkyrie. They say it is a demon. Let them talk. Is it you?" He did not answer. He did not need to. Ji-won grabbed his arm. Her fingers pressed into his skin. "You need to stop. You have done enough. They are beaten. They are scared. You can. They are not beaten yet." His voice was flat. "Rathik is still alive. His soldiers are still here. Until they leave or die, it is not over. This is not who you are anymore." "No." Taiho looked at her, and for one moment, his mask cracked. She saw the man underneath, tired, sad, carrying a weight too heavy for one person. "This is not who I wanted to be. But it is who I am. It is who they made me." He pulled his arm free gently. "I did not choose this life, Ji-won. I ran from it. I hid from it. For 15 years, I tried to bury the monster inside me." He looked toward Doyen's bed. The young man was breathing slowly, his face still swollen and broken. But they heard him. "They were going to take our children. They called us weak. They called us prey." His hands tightened into fists. "I cannot bury the monster anymore. Not when it is the only thing that can protect the people I love." Ji-won's eyes filled with tears. "And after? When this is over? What happens to you?" Taiho was silent for a long moment. Then he turned and walked toward the door. "I do not know," he said quietly. "Maybe nothing good. But that is a problem for tomorrow. Today, I have work to finish." He disappeared into the corridor. Rathik had gathered his remaining soldiers in the command center. 30 warriors, heavily armed and armored, surrounded him in a defensive circle. Every entrance was guarded. Every angle was covered. This was their last stand. "No one enters. No one leaves," Rathik ordered. His voice was strong, but his hands were shaking. "We wait here until reinforcements arrive." "Sir," one soldier said carefully, "the communications are down. We cannot confirm if our signal was received. Then we wait until someone notices we are missing. The Dominion will send ships. They always do." The soldiers exchanged looks. They had seen the bodies of their friends. They had heard the screams in the dark. They knew something terrible was coming, and walls would not stop at noon. The lights in the command center flickered. Everyone raised their weapons. "It is here," someone whispered. The main door was sealed and locked. The vents were welded shut. The walls were solid metal. There was no way in. Then a voice came through the intercom system, soft, calm, almost gentle. "Overseer Rathik, this is your last chance. Surrender. Leave the station. Never return." Rathik grabbed the communicator. "Who are you? Show yourself." "You know who I am. Your dead soldiers know who I am. Your empire will know who I am." A pause. "You have 30 seconds. I will never surrender to a human." 20 seconds. The soldiers tightened their grips on their weapons. Some of them were praying to gods they had not believed in since childhood. 10 seconds. "Hold your positions." Rathik screamed. The lights went out. Complete darkness. Complete silence. Then the killing began. It was fast. It was brutal. It was nothing like war. It was closer to Art. Taiho moved through the darkness like he was born in it. His eyes had adjusted. His body remembered. His hands did what they had been trained to do. The Valkyrie fired blindly. Their shots lit up the room in bright flashes, and in those flashes, they saw him. A shadow among shadows. A man who moved like water. A nightmare made of flesh and bone. One soldier fell. Then another. Then 5 more. They tried to form groups. He broke them apart. They tried to retreat. He cut off their paths. They tried to fight. He was always faster, always smarter, always one step ahead. The battle lasted 4 minutes. When the emergency lights finally came on, Rafik was the only one still alive. He was on his knees, surrounded by the bodies of his soldiers. His weapon was gone. His armor was cracked. Blood dripped from a cut on his face. Taiho stood before him, covered in gore that was not his own. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. A deep wound on his shoulder bled freely, but his eyes were steady, cold, unbroken. "You were supposed to be weak," Rafik whispered. His voice was broken. "Your species. You are supposed to be weak." Taiho knelt down so their faces were level. He removed his mask slowly, revealing the face of the maintenance worker, the quiet man, the pet they had laughed at. "That is the thing about humans," Taiho said. His voice was soft, almost kind. "We do not look like much. We are not the strongest species. We are not the fastest. We are not the most advanced." He leaned closer. "But when you hurt the people we love, when you threaten our families, our friends, our children, we become something your nightmares cannot imagine." Rafik trembled. "What are you going to do to me?" Taiho stood up. He looked down at the overseer with eyes that held no hatred, no anger, only cold, empty purpose. "I am going to let you live," he said. Rafik blinked in confusion. "I am going to drag you before the station council. I am going to show them what happens to those who mistake human kindness for human weakness." Taiho grabbed Rafik by the collar and pulled him to his feet. "And then I am going to send you home, so you can tell your Dominion exactly what happened here, so they know what waits for them if they ever come back." He dragged Rafik toward the door. "You will be my message. You will be my warning. And your empire will learn the same lesson that every enemy of humanity eventually learns." Rafik could barely speak. "What lesson?" Taiho opened the door and stepped into the light. "Never wake a sleeping wolf." 3 months passed like a slow river dot. The Valkyrie Dominion officially declared Horizon's Edge a restricted zone. Their ships were forbidden from approaching within 10 light years of the station. No explanation was given to the public. But in private, in the dark rooms where military leaders gathered, they shared the story of what happened. They shared the footage. They shared the name, the Ghost of Horizon, a single human who had killed nearly 100 Valkyrie soldiers in one night. A maintenance worker who had once been something far more terrible. A warning painted in blood. On the station, life slowly returned to normal. The corridors that had been filled with fear were now filled with regular noise traders arguing over prices, children running to school, workers complaining about long shifts. It was almost possible to forget what had happened. The humans on Horizon's Edge walked a little taller now. Other species looked at them differently, not with the casual dismissal of before, but with something closer to respect. Or maybe caution. It was hard to tell the difference. In the medical bay, Diane sat in a wheelchair, practicing moving his fingers. The nerves in his spine were slowly healing. Jiwan said he might walk again in a year. Maybe 2. He would need machines and therapy and patience. But he was alive. And when Taiho visited him, Diane always smiled. "Hey, old man," Diane said, his voice still weak but warm. "Did you bring me anything?" Taiho held up a small bag. Snacks from the market. The spicy ones you like. You are the best. Diane took the bag and looked at his mentor. How are you doing? Taiho sat down in a chair beside the bed. He looked tired, more tired than before, if that was possible. The wound on his shoulder had healed, but other wounds were harder to see. I am fine, he said. Liar. Taiho almost smiled. Okay, I am not fine, but I am better than yesterday. That is something. Doyen nodded slowly. He was quiet for a moment, watching Taiho's face. Then he spoke carefully. The other day, some kids came to visit me. Human kids. They wanted to know about you. They called you a hero. Taiho's expression darkened. I am not a hero. I know. That is what I told them. Doyen paused. I told them you were just a man who did what he had to do to protect his family. I told them that is what humans do. And what did they say? They asked if you could teach them how to fight. Taiho sighed deeply. What did you tell them? Doyen grinned weakly. I told them to ask you themselves. But also, maybe learn how to fix air vents first. Being useful is more important than being dangerous. For the first time in weeks, Taiho laughed. It was a small laugh, quiet and tired. But it was real. A few days later, a ship arrived from Earth. It was not a military vessel, just a small transport carrying supplies and visitors. But one passenger was different. Her name was Choi Nara. She was a representative from Earth's diplomatic corps, sent to investigate the incident on Horizon's Edge. She was young, sharp-eyed, and carried herself with the confidence of someone who had seen strange things and was not easily surprised. She found Taiho in his workshop, surrounded by broken machines and scattered tools. Park Taiho? She asked from the doorway. He looked up. Who wants to know? Choi Nara, Earth Diplomatic Corps. She stepped inside, looking around at the mess. You are a hard man to find. Everyone on the station knows your name, but no one knows where you live. That is on purpose. She smiled slightly. I understand. May I sit? He gestured to an old crate. She sat down, crossing her legs, and studied him carefully. I have read the reports, she said. All of them. The official ones and the unofficial ones. I have seen the footage. I have talked to witnesses. She paused. What you did was remarkable. It was necessary. It was both. She leaned forward. Do you know what is happening across the galaxy right now? 3 species that were being bullied by the Velthari have requested human advisors. Military advisors. They saw what one human did here, and they want to learn. Taiho frowned. They should not learn from me. Maybe not. But they want to learn from humanity. From our spirit. Our stubbornness. Our refusal to lie down when stronger powers push us around. Nara smiled. You have started something, Taiho, whether you meant to or not. He shook his head. I just wanted to fix air filters and be left alone. Nara laughed. That might be the most human thing you could say. She stood up and straightened her uniform. Earth is proud of you. Whatever you think of yourself, know that. You reminded the galaxy of something important. What? That humanity is not prey. We never were. We just prefer peace. She walked toward the door, then stopped and looked back. Thank you, Taiho, for everything. She left. Taiho sat alone in his workshop for a long time. He looked at his hands that had fixed countless machines, saved countless lives, and taken many more. He wondered if those 2 things could ever balance out. He wondered if he would ever find peace again. Then he picked up a broken power coupling and started working. That evening, Ji-won found him still in his workshop, surrounded by tools and spare parts. You missed dinner again, she said. I was busy. You are always busy. She sat down on the crate Nara had used earlier. Are you okay? Taiho was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke slowly, choosing each word carefully. When I was young, I was trained to be a monster. They took everything soft in me and tried to burn it away. And for a long time, I thought they succeeded. He put down his tools and looked at her. But then I found this station. I found you. I found Diane. I found people worth protecting. And now? Now I know the monster is still inside me. It always will be. But maybe... He paused, searching for the right words. Maybe it does not have to control me. Maybe I can choose when to let it out. And maybe that is enough. Yiran reached out and took his hand. Her grip was warm and strong. You are not a monster, Taiho. Monsters do not worry about being monsters. They do not care about protecting others. They do not sit in workshops fixing broken things because they want to help people. She squeezed his hand. You are just a man. A tired, stubborn, impossible man. And that is enough. Taiho looked at her. For a moment, the walls he had built around himself seemed to crack. Something warm flickered in his eyes. Thank you, he said quietly. For what? For seeing me. The real me. Even when I cannot. They sat together in comfortable silence as the station's lights dimmed for the night cycle. Outside, in the corridors, life went on. Aliens of all species walked past each other, trading goods and stories and smiles. And when they passed the thin human with tired eyes and calloused hands, some of them nodded respectfully. They had all heard the story now. They all knew what that quiet man had done. A young alien child, new to the station, tugged on her parents' arm. Why do people bow their heads when that human walks by? She asked. Her parent looked at Taiho's retreating figure and spoke softly. Because, little one, that man taught the Velthari something they will never forget. What? The most dangerous creature in the galaxy is not the one that roars the loudest or shows the sharpest teeth. It is the quiet one, the kind one, the one who asks politely for peace. The parent paused. Because when you mistake that kindness for weakness, when you push them too far, they become something even nightmares fear. The child watched Taiho disappear around a corner, returning to his quiet life of fixing broken things. He does not look scary, she said. Her parent smiled sadly. The truly dangerous ones never do.